Welcome back, viewers. It's episode number 17, and it's again very special because Brandon is back with us. As well, for people who are not following us, Brandon is a serial entrepreneur. He's based out of the United States, and we have recently partnered with his company, the Rose Gold Group, as well. So, what are we discussing today? We are discussing the ad optimization and split testing, right, and more.
Yeah,
So
totally. We are doing that
let's
today.
we'll so let me go through the agenda of today's podcast today, and so we'll begin with understanding the split testing first, what it takes to create a good ad campaign, and testing and analyzing, and managing strategies. So let's begin with why testing or why optimization of an ad is important. Anmol, Brandon, any one of you would like to take that question? What
Yeah,
is
I
so
think I
important
think I think,
about
I think we're
optimizing?
both qualified to answer that. Well, I know we've seen a lot too, but lately I've just come down to where, any decision that could be made from data should be made from data,
Mm,
and you can only get that data from testing, right? So,
right.
I've always found too, it's like you never really know what creative or what type of copy is going to work. I think it's really important to test and continue to test, right? Um, I just found, it's just about optimizing and making sure you're getting there as quick as possible. And
Right.
so that obviously depends like on your ad budget and how many creatives you are testing, but making sure, you know, you're doing it in a consistent way, right? It's like if you have five different campaigns with 20 different creatives, but you're only running a $5 a day ad budget, like it's not going to probably optimize as fast. And so that's why it's important to kind of identify the key winners first and then split those off and then test them further. But
You're
And
right.
they say these days data is the new oil.
Data is
yep.
the new oil.
Data is the new
Uh,
oil.
and like I say, I like to say that uh, an ad campaign is a living organism. It has, and each ad has its own personality, right? And especially in marketing, we never go by a gut feeling. It's always better to test. So let's begin with understanding what is split testing.
I was gonna say, Amno, you can take this one off here.
So it's basically like testing two different versions of a campaign. Okay.
Right.
For our audience, let's say we have a campaign A and we have a campaign B. In campaign A, we have a different creative, and in campaign B, we have different creative. Now, as marketers, we want to test out and see which campaign will work better for us. So there is a special type of campaign that you can go into any of these ad platforms. You can basically test out these two. You can raise them. You can see which performs better on the basis of the objectives that you have put in the campaign and what is the output you are getting. So within 7 days, you get your winning ads. And that, so
Hmm.
in short, this is split testing, but it's a very vast concept. You need to understand the dynamics of targeting, what you are targeting, for who you are targeting, are the campaigns in the same lines, what are the ad copy, what is the creative. So there are a lot of things. And like Brandon, you have run a lot of ads, especially in the luxury space, and that's where I see when we plan campaigns, especially for very niche markets. That's where you realize you need to do a lot of split testing. That's where I've seen it has succeed the most. For generic campaigns, if I'm selling toothpaste, I need not to do a lot of A/B testing, right? I
Well,
think
and
you guys would
I
agree.
think what's important too is for people to know what they are testing as well,
Yeah.
right? So identifying almost like those, key performance indicators, like initially, so like if it's an awareness campaign or if it's a conversion campaign, and knowing how it's optimizing, if that makes sense, right? It's like if
Yeah.
you're pushing for conversions or if you're just pushing for traffic, and I think knowing what you're testing for first is really important, and then as you
Mhm.
start testing, you can start to see if it's matching those KPIs.
I really like what you
Can you
said there.
can we elaborate a little bit on what basis do we split these campaigns? I mean, so suppose these ad sets or ad groups have been split, right? And so on what basis are we splitting them? On what are the ideas? So I'll simplify it for our viewers who don't understand the ad campaigns. So suppose Anmol, Brandon, and I, we all of us are sitting and we are deciding an ad campaign. We might enter into an argument that this kind of target audience might work for this ad campaign. Anmol would say, no, it's good for 16 to 20 years old. Brandon has a different view altogether. That he believes that it is for 40 years old, and I believe that it is for somewhere in between. So but what is happening out here is all of us are going by a gut feeling, right? So, so what puts an end to this argument is that we put all our ideas to test. Am I giving the right example, Anmol and Brandon? Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
and Ashwin, it has saved us a lot of times. When we were on when we were on in conversation with our clients, and they used to say, "No,
I
I
was
need."
coming to that.
Client used to come and say, "No, I believe that this will work." Then we used to say, "No, we will see and go by the data." Okay, let's do one thing.
Mm.
Let's take one campaign, and we will test it out against what we run. And
Right,
most of the times, we have win it. I must admit it.
right.
And sometimes you
So,
never know which creative or copy is going to work. And I know I've been
Agree.
surprised before as well, where you think you have great ads set up and then they just don't perform. And then maybe it's a piece of UGC or you try something weird or a different hook. And that's the one that takes off, right? So I think that's what's important with the testing.
Yeah,
And you
it
never know.
amazes
I'm
me
constantly surprised at what works and what isn't. And
totally.
I think it's evolved as well, right? If you look at advertising, even probably 5 to 8 years ago, I think it's much different of a strategy, what works and what isn't compared to what's happening now.
Right.
Mm.
Totally
So that
agree with
brings
you.
us
I
to our
agree. And
next
even
stage
on
of this.
these platforms are evolving day by day so much with the help of AI and the other things that they are implementing. So it is getting difficult because the competition also doing the same. So you need
Yep.
to have an edge. And plus, even I agree. I am surprised by what works, what not works. Sometimes you will have 100% hope that this ad will work, but then the ad that you didn't have would hope will work. So it's
And
totally
then I guess
different.
another aspect to touch on is also knowing your industry and market, because the type of marketing for that specific market is going to be completely different as well. And it's like, where are they? And so obviously I've done a lot of advertising on Facebook, but I don't think all the groups are always on Facebook. And you need to know where your target audience is hanging out basically, and then get on that platform. Like if you're doing more business to business or trying to target more professionals, maybe it's going to be a little higher cost per click, but you'll have a more targeted demographic, like on LinkedIn, for example. If you're targeting women, I think maybe Pinterest could be better. So I think it's first kind of identifying who your market is, and then
Mm.
identifying like what you want to test and the message to get across, and then just thinking outside the box a little bit.
Exactly.
Because another
Right.
thing that I've
So,
learned a lot recently is not just on ads, but creating an ecosystem within the ad group. So it's like if you have copy or a creative that is semi controversial or gets people to comment and answer to them, where you can start getting kind of an ecosystem in your ad. Obviously, lowers the cost per click and helps boost it. But I think it's great when you can form that engagement and that form of community. And that's what I've seen a lot too. Is instead of I know I've gone away from talking about the products and talking more about the consumer's internal issues. There's a book I read called How to Build a Story Brand, I think it is. And it was great. It talked about there's internal and external problems within a person. And when companies just throw facts at them, and I know Apple is an example, when they first came out, they took out like a 7-page ad in the newspaper talking about all the capabilities. It didn't do well until they changed it to just be different. Or no, I think it was think different, right?
Yeah, think different.
Um, yep, exactly. And then so that's what comes back to testing, right? And then that obviously took off and was much more successful campaign. So
And especially that's where split testing helps a lot, because what I have seen is most people, they take marketing as sales, that it will directly come into sales. Of course eventually it leads to it, but you need to first test out a lot of things to see what works for you, what not works for you, and it's a continuous process. I like, personally, me and Ashwin, we face a lot that once the ads start performing, people think that now, oh, we have reached the pinnacle. Now it's just up. But it's not like that. You need to constantly evolve, you need to change, you need to test. Sometimes you will fall, and we have faced this personally. Like,
and I think we've talked about this before as well, but it's like once you're running that campaign,
yeah,
there's so many other avenues to it. And I think you're right. People think like once the campaign's running and they're spending money, they should just be getting sales. But a lot of times it takes multiple points of contact for someone to convert. So it's like
mhm.
if you're running ads, make sure there's kind of top of funnel, middle of funnel, make sure you're retargeting them. And then once you get them in the ecosystem, right, that's when you can send out emails and eventually they'll convert. But I think a lot of people just look for that immediate conversion. And a lot of
Mm.
times I think there's a lot more effort that needs to be done on the back end once someone engages with you.
Right, right.
Right.
And that's where most people lose and say that Facebook ad don't work for me. They don't work.
Yep.
That's where you get to hear those
So,
things.
you know, like, so this is where I think we should discuss about the art of crafting an ad, uh, ad variation. Let's delve into the art of crafting and of compelling ad copies. So, what goes into it, Anmol?
So
So how?
basically, when you are
Yeah.
drafting an ad copy or you are drafting an ad creative or anything, you need to first understand your target audience. Where I see that most people lack is they don't understand the dynamics of their target audience. If I am targeting bikers, my creative needs to look like, and in bikes also there are a lot of segments. If I am targeting a sports bike, the creative needs to be sporty. The tagline needs to be sporty. They need to feel sporty when they see it. If I am targeting for a muscle bike or a muscle car, it needs to look like a muscle car. It needs to feel like a muscle car. And whereas if I'm targeting a go kart basically for yogis, it should look like that, the creative. But that's where most people go wrong. And uh, even on a daily basis, I have a conversation with the clients, with the teams, other vendors in the industry, even our advisors. And the main point is you need to understand your target audience. And that's where most people go wrong. When first point is understand your target audience, who you are serving to, then go for getting a video drafted as per what people are doing, seeing your competition, what they have been doing, are they successful. If they are doing something right, it's not wrong to just try to understand what they're doing and try to implement the same, because sometimes it has worked for us for a few clients when we have tried to see what the bigger guys were doing, and that worked for us. But it's not always the same, of course. You need to see the target audience, you need to see what other people are doing, then you need to see what type of content you're putting. Some of the target audiences, they like to read long form paragraphs rather than having a video in front of them. Of course, these days most people are like that they want to see in a reel. But it depends. If I'm targeting someone for a very serious business, let's say it's debt collection, it's a very serious
Hmm.
industry. I won't be showing you reel, 5-second reel. Okay, you put in money. If someone took it away, we are here to recover. No, 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 no. That 10,000 crore company CEO is not coming to you with that. He need a proper report that he comes to you, talks to you about it, and then he gets converted. So you need to get that part first right. Once you get that right, then you see, okay, these are different variations. One is, let's say I am selling debt collection software. So first I will be talking about what are the numbers that we have done. Maybe that works. Second thing is how we are different from the traditional debt collection industry, because earlier we know how the banks used to collect debt. They will come to your home, they will take everything away. But that is not a humanly approach. Right? AI. So a CEO who is running a 10,000 crore bank, he will need it. He will want to understand how AI is being implemented in my bank, how I am able to use your AI to get the receivables from the customers, how your AI will conversate with them, how are the conversions rate, because that will matter. I am doing debt collections.
Basically, you
Traditional,
analyze your data
yeah,
properly.
you
Well,
analyze your
and
data.
another thing I'd like to add there too, kind of for the viewers, but that's also when you know your target audience, that's also when your call to action will change as well, right? So if you're targeting debt collectors, you're probably not going to have a shop now button,
Totally.
right? It'd be like learn more information, or read more, and have them. And that's where when you know that funnel, it's like top of the funnel is just getting their information, getting them to click learn more. Once they're learning more, that's when obviously you can touch more about your products. Obviously, you know they're interested, get their email and kind of retarget that way to where hopefully it'll be a few forms of action before they convert. Where it's like if you're selling, just $10 bracelets or something, maybe you can have a cool, fun ad with just a shop now button. So it changes the call to action depending on the industry and the customer journey that you plan on
Right.
targeting.
So, Brandon, you have set up a brand. How did you pick your target audience? Since we are discussing the target audience here, so what was your uh, testing,
Yeah.
or
So
what was your
I
gut
have,
feeling when you decided all
yep.
these things?
So there's a guy I work with who we're actually partnered now together, but he's I think like 6 or 8 years older than me. Kind of he's gone places that I haven't gone yet, which is nice in the business world. And so he actually mapped out kind of I should try to pull it up sometime, but he mapped out kind of these key metrics to identify a target audience. And one of them was when you just start identifying the business, right? Like a low cost item with high margins. But then for the industry, it was more of, do they have the disposable income to also spend on this item, right? And so for me, it was like when you start identifying the cost, and then I guess like the demographic, right, of the target audience, that they have the disposable income, it's something that they're passionate about, and then the product kind of provides value to their passion. Once you start identifying these things, it makes a lot of sense. And because it's also a passion of mine, I can also put myself in the customer's shoes. And I think it's really important also when creating ads to put yourself in the customer's shoes. I know that's great when I go through like Klaviyo flows and stuff like that. As
Right.
a customer, getting an abandoned cart email or a welcome email, what's the series that I would like to see and follow up with, right?
Right.
So for me, I think that's kind of where the passion correlates to the business. I don't always think that you should follow your passion. I think you should follow the opportunity. But for me, it just kind of to go hand in hand. And so that's how I identified it. And then obviously, again, it comes back to you test and you learn as you go. And I just found that this industry is very engaging. And so that's where it comes off. The marketing is more community driven, right?
Hmm.
And in my opinion, it's like you can have a higher lifetime value per customer if you can kind of get them in the ecosystem and engage with them. Where a lot of companies just try to sell, I try to provide a little more value. And I feel like I'm building a fairly loyal customer base kind of from the beginning, which is interesting.
That is amazing.
Okay,
That is amazing.
that brings us to testing and analyzing ad campaigns on the basis of performance. So let's now discuss it a little bit more in detail, a step by step process of how do you conduct a split test, and what is the basic process, or what is the method to madness to here.
I think Amno can talk on this a little bit more, but I know with split testing right now is I'm testing a lot of different landing pages
Mm.
and just kind of seeing how people interact. So I'm not split testing as many ads. I've kind of identified what has worked now, and obviously can always get better. But now I'm seeing how they're once they engage with the brand, what does their customer journey look like, and what's the fastest avenue to a conversion, right? So if someone just comes to the website and browses around the website, then some leave, some may add to cart and then leave. I'm finding some of these landing pages seem to work out quite well because you can display, there's an aesthetic that I want on the website, but then with the landing pages, you can always switch and move things around. I think reviews play a big issue in that, right? Where I think that'll help out a lot. And giving how do I say this? Giving information about your product, but that will help their problems, not only talking about the brand. If you talk about how, we're the best at this and we offer this, it doesn't connect with them. But if I can talk about how to help your morning routine, how to help you save time, now you can start relying, and that's where it targets those inner problems that everyone has, which I'm telling you, it's actually a really good book to kind of listen. You should even there's an audible one. And I'm telling you, if you're just going for a walk or a run or something, listening to it is really important because it makes you think about your customers in a different light. And I think I see a lot of companies now. I know when they haven't read the book because they'll be talking about their products and not how they can help their end consumer. So I know we went off on a very here, but yeah, Animal, you can talk about more, I guess, the split testing on like the ad level.
I agree what you said, and this is the concept I've been teaching to the team these days. That you need to focus on telling what problem you're solving rather than just directly selling the product.
And I've also learned in this book as well, you have to be a lot more direct with telling them to shop, which I think is very interesting. I always was under the impression that if you're seeing my ad, you know that I'm trying to get you to shop. But a lot of the times you have to just be plain and simple and literally tell them like shop the link, and it'll be more direct. And one thing I'm testing right now is just more aggressive hooks. So for example, like, in the watch industry, like actually calling out, like calling all Rolex owners, or do you own a Rolex, or are you tired of wearing the same watch as everyone else? And you can kind of start digging at them a little bit more versus just saying like, we have the best watch accessories. It just doesn't really tell much versus like, hey, do you want to stand out? Are you tired of, always fitting in with
When you
everyone?
say, do you have a Rolex? So they already have made up their mind that you're talking about in that category. So they're
Exactly.
expecting
And that's
something
where
in
if
that
you can,
category.
and that's where you start like targeting the keywords and the audience. If you have like a lookalike email list or something to put in there, so you know that you are targeting Rolex owners, and then you can call them out directly, right?
Mhm.
But I found it's and even me, it's getting a little more out of my comfort zone, but it seems to be performing the best is when you're a little more direct in calling them out and grabbing attention versus just talking about your products. I think one thing that's changed in the past, even probably like 5, 6 years, is the amount of advertisers online. And I don't know, but any platform you go to, there's just ads all day. You open Snapchat and it's ads, and go to YouTube and it's ads. You try to watch TV and there's ads. And so I think people
Right.
have become so accustomed to seeing that, where I think you need something that kind of calls them out a little more specifically. And then knowing that customer journey, right? Is it a low cost product that they're just going to quickly buy? You know, I don't know if you've seen those ads on TV, but it's like call now and you get 10.99 and it's yours kind of thing. But if you're selling like a more luxury of an item, it's going to take a longer process. And I think those pain points are going to be slightly different, right?
Right.
When you're buying a luxury item, it's not really a necessity. So you got to pinpoint, what are they trying to fix with this luxury item? Is it insecurity? Are they trying to fit in? Are they trying to show off? Do they want to stand out? Are they celebrating something, right? Is it a gift for someone? And once you start testing those little options, then it starts to narrow down. And, you know, the name of the game is just how can you optimize the fastest, I feel like.
And
And
it
they don't want to hear, but it takes time to do that.
right,
Yeah.
right. It ranges from audience to audience. Somewhere you need to play psychologically, somewhere you need to be direct. Okay, 1099. And it's different for everyone. And for our audience, what we can do is we can put the book link and the audiobook link in the description so that they can also go and listen to this great book out, and they can also, share their insights on it. We would love to hear that from our audience.
Yep.
Now,
It's a good one. Honestly, on the
How do
audio book,
you use these testing metrics to find out trends, like analyze, and so that it helps you in upcoming ad campaigns?
wait, say that again. Sorry. How do
So,
I?
how do you use these data from the testing to identify trends?
I think that's just different kind of. That's a good question. I think it's different metrics and different KPIs you look at to see like what's performing the best.
Mhm.
But then also that's where there's other plugins, right? Like I know I'm big on Hotjar. I actually just installed my Microsoft Clarity on one of our Shopify stores. But that's where you start looking at kind of a heat map. How are people engaging? Because maybe it's one of those things where maybe your ads are performing really well. You're getting a ton of traffic, but then from the client's point of view, they're like, why isn't it converting? But maybe that's on their end of the website's bad. The call to actions are off. The messaging is it's hard to find a product or it's hard to check out, right? And so that's where it's like, I know from digital marketers, it's really tough because we could be doing our job and it could be performing really well, but if they're not following up and making sure that it's optimized for conversions on the website, that's also kind of a miss there as well.
Totally agree with you, Brandon, what you just said. These days, what people don't realize is, in the market, what is happening is most people come to you, I want to do performance marketing, I want to do this, I want to do that. But they do not realize it's a process that requires a lot of things to work together to get the things done. Like the landing
Right.
page
Yep.
needs to be worked, your website needs to be visible on Google. So if let's say I show you an ad, okay, you buy this plant from me, it's for 10 rupees. But okay, now you have seen that, you have bounced off, now you want to get back to it as the customer. How you will be able to find them if you are not visible on Google? And I've seen this in a lot of cases with the clients that we have worked in the past. They were not visible on Google, they used to lose a lot of people in their funnel, and then they used to say my ads are not working. Ads are not
Yep.
working because other things of the funnel are not working. First of all, our job is to bring in the user. Now if they don't have a good experience, or let's say they just bounced off, I will get back to them again. Our ads are retargeting you, but then again you are not able to find them on Google, or maybe they have not emailed you back, you have forgotten about them. So there are a lot of things that comes into the picture. And these days what I feel is that now, as there is a lot of noise everywhere, so we as marketers need to be 360. We need to be present in front of the customer as much as possible, because that's what I have been seeing is working well when our ads are in front of the customer's eyes, for a decent number of times, not irritating them that we are always on top of them, but a decent number. Like every in a day you show them that twice or thrice, and then after 1 day or 2 day they get to see it again, not irritating them but just be in front of them. Because when they want to buy, or they see your ad again and again, they make the decision. So at that point of time, you need to be in front of them, not your competitor. And these days, since the multi advertiser thing has come into the picture, I've seen a lot of competitor ads have also popping up. So what I do is, generally when we set up a campaign, I go and search for the brand online. I visit their website, and then the ad starts to target me. So I act as an auditor there. Ads start to come to me. I see who else is coming after that ad to me. Maybe it's my competitor. Okay, then they are watching me very well. They know what I am doing, and then they are following that. So these kind of metrics, you need to keep on watching it. So it's not something like that. Okay, today I want to make a great campaign, I will make it, and then it start performing. It's not like that. And when you do split testing, so split testing differs for everyone. So I have run split testing on two different campaigns, two different ad sets, and two different ads as well. So it depends on what exactly you're trying to achieve. So let's say if I want to see for our podcast, I want to run an ad. I may try two different variations of the ad sets, two different variations of the ad sets, where in one I can target traffic, how many people are visiting my YouTube video. In other, I can see how many people I am reaching. I'm just giving an example. It could be two different metrics. It could be two different audiences. Of course, in the if you see the metrics for our podcast as well. So whenever we have run the ads, what I have seen is, in India, when I target, the views are very high, but the engagement is very low. And that's why I've moved on from India. I set a separate different ad for India, where I put in lower budget, because I know that many people are going to see because of the population. It's a blessing that we have. But then our target audience, who I want to be seeing my podcast, I'm not able to
Yep.
reach very well here in India, because there are a lot of people with a similar interest, no matter how much
Mhm.
deeper I can go. And that's where I did a split test. I split test one India and other with locations like Australia, New Zealand, USA, UK. That's where I feel the audience is really would really be interested in watching our podcast, especially when we have Brandon with us. You know,
Yeah, and one thing I kind of think about it like that way is I don't know if you know those like drawing templates, right? Where there's like 10 different templates, and then once you kind of put them all together, it makes a picture. But
Right.
individually, they're just different little spots. And that's kind of how I look at a company in a whole, to be honest with you, is most people think they can just start with like one template and run ads, get conversions, and boom, like I'm gonna be a millionaire. When really it takes a lot of different things where you put down that first template of like building a website, then you put down another template of like content and another template of team and fulfillment and another. And once you start laying like these eventually you want to obviously create a picture, you know?
right,
But it's a lot more than just one or the other. And I've seen people with great websites that have awful ads, and then vice versa. I what frustrates me is when I know a company has a great product, but their messaging is just awful. And
right,
there's a
I
few that I've
completely
shopped with.
agree with you. People's approach is always very lopsided. That is because they don't, like Anmol said in the beginning, it is not just about performance marketing. It is actually a step-by-step process. It is a mix of and match of each and every aspect of digital marketing, starting from having a good website to having a good search engine optimization done, to running good ads. So each and every aspect of digital marketing has a time and place for itself, and
Yep.
there's something that people don't understand. They just keep focusing on just one aspect of it and expect to get result.
And
And another
just
aspect.
to add here, I was having a conversation with one of our friends based out of London. So he handles, the ads of multiple hotels. So he's handling 200 million pounds of portfolio every year for these hotels. So he was telling me, Anmol, the market has changed now. I am running Performance Max campaign, but they are not doing that well. I am doing everything that I can. But then what I did is I have gone now 360. I am present offline. I am doing radio. I am doing billboards. I am doing newspaper. I am doing everything I can. That's where I am getting to see more conversions now. My ads have reached to a certain point, and now I am what I am seeing is just stagnancy. Even I scale up the budget, I still get pretty much similar results. It does not make sense for me. So that's what it fascinated me, that yeah, in ads also there is a point of saturation that comes into picture, and after that you need to look for different things. Then again, split testing comes into the picture. Which channel, which
Probably
where people are
it's a
coming.
good to diversify your product range altogether, I guess, because that's all that your product can get you.
Right,
Well, I know entrepreneurs don't want to hear it either, but Because if you could
But
just turn
it's
on
a hard
ads and have it be,
time.
if you could just turn on ads and have it be successful, that'd be great, right? But a lot of times
Right.
it takes a lot more customer interaction to better even understand yourself and your company and how it's portrayed, right? And so that's where it's maybe you have ads running, but making sure you're still going out and talking face to face and getting customer feedback and putting your product in front of people and making more connections. You know what I mean?
Right.
And even if you do have an agency, right? I've seen a lot of awful agencies. And so
Mm.
even if they're not getting the results, like you got to cut them off and try another one or even learn yourself. And that's kind of what happened to me is I had bad experience with agencies. And so I just started learning myself. And now I've come to the point that I'm better than other agencies that I've hired. And even it's to the point where with a couple of my companies, I try to delegate that work. And whenever I pass off that work, it's like they come in and they can't seem to have that same kind of energy. And so I think it's also really important to learn for yourself because then even when you do pass off the work, being able to understand what they're doing, I think is really important. There's some business owners that I talk to and I start talking about KPIs and split testing and flows and retargeting. It just goes over their head, which is okay because you know they hired us to be the experts, but at the same time, I think it's really important just to have an understanding of digital
Right.
marketing and marketing as a whole. But now being in 2023, digital side of it is really important.
Right.
That is one of the biggest challenges that I think any of the agencies face, and is a client who does not understand digital marketing at all. Because this, like you said, I mean, if they don't understand, then it becomes really tough uh, for us to convince them to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, like Brandon said, it is a bitter pill to swallow. For doesn't matter how great product you might have. There is a point when there are no more customers left for you. You would always reach a certain point. There are only so many people that want your product. For example, let's take Harley Davidson in India. There are only so many people who can afford your bike. So
And even
no
write
matter
it.
how much marketing or and they it was we the fact is in front of us. It's for us to see. Harley tried all gimmicks, all marketing
Yeah.
gimmicks, but they had to leave India and take support from Hero, which is a local company, because the marketing alone cannot help you out when you don't have the right customer base. Or
I was gonna
if
say,
you
and Hero knew what interacted, I guess, with that culture and industry, and it's like when it's one of those things where like Harley has a great product, but if they don't know
right.
how to message to that audience, that's
Exactly.
where they need,
And plus,
you know.
there is another thing. You know, their bikes, they are so heavy, and especially for people in India, it's very difficult to ride them because, there is a lot of difference in Asian people and American people and other types.
Not just about the size and all. I mean, look at the Indian mentality as well,
Yeah,
right?
Indian mentality.
I mean, an Indian would think that for the price of a Harley Fat Boy, I could buy an SUV,
Yeah, totally.
which could carry my entire
That's what
family.
happens.
So
And
that is the Indian mentality. You need
yeah,
to. So for them, a two-wheeler is a two-wheeler.
yeah,
So
they will instead of Harley, they will go for a Royal Enfield or a Pulsar maybe.
I think for that price, they could have a Royal Enfield, and they could buy one SUV as well in India.
Yeah, we
Right.
especially India is a very price sensitive market, and that's where
They could
they
have a
will not give.
four-wheeler and a two-wheeler for the price of a Harley. So that is something that Harley didn't understand, and they burnt a lot of cash on marketing. So I'm not saying that they were not able to reach their target clientele. They did reach their target clientele, but their target clientele were only so much. It was
And
not
it's also
beyond that.
kind of pulls into the importance, right, of testing and being on top of your data because Harley burned a lot of cash
Right,
realizing that it's not the right market for them. And it's
right.
like, what are those key metrics that they could have identified sooner, or what market research could you have done before spending that money? And a lot of the
Yeah.
times, it's just getting direct feedback. I'm sure if they would have gone around India taking surveys from people, they could have figured that out and saved a lot of money. But that obviously takes a little extra work. And so
Right.
I find when you deal with bigger companies like this that have bigger budgets,
Uh,
they're willing to just put the money just to test. But for entrepreneurs kind of starting off, I think it's really important to kind of go the
They're,
extra
they're they're
mile.
not just doing this in India, partnering with Hero. In China also, they're partnering with Benelli. So, so the lesson that they learned from India, they're applying it in China as well. So they're coming up with a cheaper bike range, partnering with a local Chinese brand.
Smart.
Yeah. So yes, they did learn the lesson, but you're right, Brandon. Before they entered the market, they should have understood, done their survey and understood the Indian mentality. I think that this is where the overconfidence of the marketing team got the better of them, because they thought, okay, we'll burn cash, we'll create this so entire cult following in India as well. But yes, they didn't
Well,
think that the Indian brain is different from an
what I
American
think
brain.
what's good to learn from this as well is like making mistakes is great, but then making sure you learn from it. And so what it sounds like here is they obviously learned from it, and
They
now
did
they're
learn.
moving
They did
forward,
learn.
which
They did learn.
which to me that's still a win in my book, as long as you can learn
Yes.
from it and not
Right.
repeat it.
Totally agree.
Like what we were talking about, instead of marketing the product range that they already have, they have gone into developing a new product altogether which suits the Indian market. Yeah,
That's
Yep.
that
how they
is
can present.
developing a cylinder bike range for which is more suitable for India. And
Right.
let's not forget, India is a hot country. You
Yeah.
know, a twin cylinder in India, it burns your legs.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And plus, Ashwin, if you talk about the same case study with cars, lot of
Right.
brands have come into India and they failed to tap into the Indian market.
Chevrolet, for example, another American
Chevrolet.
brand. It failed
Yeah,
miserably in India.
yeah.
General Motors couldn't.
Whereas you see Maruti Suzuki, it's nailing it. Everyone wants to buy a Maruti because
Well,
they have captured the market so well. They
yes,
understand.
they've captured. Maruti has the reason, and Suzuki is because of their service.
Right.
You can get a Suzuki car repaired even if you're stuck in a jungle in India. There's a service center, or there's a mechanic who can repair it, is available anywhere. But the problem with the imported cars is that you need to. There's a service center which is 600 kilometers away from your place. So obviously it is a tough thing to.
Yeah.
So over here there was a different case, but with Harley could have done well if they had what done what they're doing right now. So
Right.
I think yeah, I think they had the cash to burn. They burnt it and they learned the lesson. They have a book to write now. Probably they'll make a movie about it
I would say I think they're still doing all right though.
later. Oh, yeah. They're cash rich.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
but
this is where we were talking about having so when your product plateaus, so this is where you need to diversify your product. And Harley took it with a pinch of salt, and they swallowed their ego, and they are coming up with a smaller bike, which is
Yeah.
not their identity.
Right.
So
I'm sure
there are
I
a
think
lot
it'll
of
be
business.
successful as well.
Yeah, there are a lot of smaller businesses that we're working with a much bigger ego than Harley has. you know, they need to learn from there.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
true.
especially
That's
small entrepreneurs, they need to be in the mindset of constant testing, you know,
Yeah.
because nothing will work overnight and you need to constantly test. And whereas they love the thing so much that they don't want to change. And I've seen like we
They're in
have
love with
been,
their own
yeah, we have been
concept.
working with
Yes.
such so great businesses. Their ads were doing good, but just because of they didn't want to understand the data or what the market needs, they were not able to scale, and eventually their empires were fallen down. So
Yep.
this happens a
And that's
lot.
kind of where it comes to like identifying your target audience, then like knowing your customer journey.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it's one of those things where if you know that maybe your target audience is more community driven, that's where it's important to kind of think outside the box and maybe doing more giveaways or dealing with more influencers is another form of kind of like if you don't have a big ad budget, there's a lot
Mhm.
of ways to get that initial top of the funnel. If you
Right.
start, depending on the cost of the product, right? But using affiliates and ambassadors to kind of promote it. Then when people interact, running like a retargeting campaign or something like that, it doesn't always take money. And I think that's what I found in my journey is it's not always money that fixes the issue.
Mhm.
And sometimes I think it's actually quite the adverse when people have money, kind of like Harley in this situation, right? When people have money, they're willing to just kind of spend it to do less work. Where a lot of the times that really creates that progress is the stuff that maybe you don't love to do, right? But it takes a little more work, and maybe you're in Facebook groups, talking in Facebook groups, right? That's much more specific. It doesn't seem like you're getting the ball rolling as fast, but from there, you're dealing with a target audience. You can start to retarget them. You can get more feedback, right, from whether your products, from your messaging, and then those things kind of relate. as you grow. But I see sometimes when you have a budget, you want to do less work, so you think you can just run a higher ad spend, and a lot of the time it's not just the trick, you know.
Like
Right.
sometimes what our team does with ChatGPT.
Yeah.
We
Actually,
have it, just use it.
that's another thing though to let everyone know is like definitely take advantage of everything that you have at your disposal. And like I actually enjoy copywriting, and it's something that I feel like I've done quite well for the past few years. But now with ChatGPT, it's like, and I don't just copy paste ChatGPT, but it's great to use
For
AI
ideas.
for ideas. And also maybe it's like little wording and vocabulary to where I'll type in exactly what I want to say, and they'll rewrite it in, you know, 5 different ways, and I kind of piece it together and then test it. And so,
Right.
I mean, I think using AI, it's just why not? You know,
Why
Exactly.
definitely
not?
say
Yes.
AI is a tool that gives you the power.
exactly. And I think it's going to evolve into something much greater than it is right now. So just learning it at the same time, it's learning us faster than we're learning it. I know that, but being just familiar with AI, I think is really important over the next 5, 10 years. And honestly, probably for the rest of our life, it's just going to
Right.
continue to optimize and grow.
Totally.
All right, let's not get into that. Otherwise, we'll get all excited about it. I
Yep.
know all of us are really passionate about AI, and we'll
Right.
really digress from the topic. So yes, so to conclude this, so the learning that we have where is this it's that you always test no matter what. I mean, even if you have to burn cash like Harley and lose money, shut your company, go back to your own country, and come back, make a comeback again. That is another way to learn. But yes, something that people need to understand is the initial part of marketing, which is the testing phase, is expensive. Than the
Well, and another thing too that people might think in their minds, like, you know, if I have a good ad that's performing well, why would I ever test more or change it? And the thing is like that also that's when you look into kind of the KPIs of frequency. So maybe it's like you have a good ad that's performing really well for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, but eventually your target audience is going to start seeing it repeatedly, and like that's where it's important to
Right.
duplicate what's worked, but change things around. And so I mean, because what I've learned too is like I've been going through this journey that I understand it, but a lot of people I talk to don't even really understand that side of things. But even if you have a good creative that's performing well, it's not like you can just let it run forever,
Right.
you know?
Couldn't agree more.
I think that sums it all up.
Yeah. That's some
We
bit
have
all.
come to the end of our podcast, which was very interesting conversation. Thank you, Brandon, again for
Thanks.
Of
joining
course.
us.
I was going to
Yes.
say, if people in the comments or whatnot, if there's something more that we could talk about that we didn't cover, or maybe
Hmm.
went off on a tangent or something like that you'd want to hear, if you just want to put that in the comments, and we can always make
Yeah,
another one
also, let
answer.
us know if you'd like to see more of Brandon with us. We can make that happen.
Yeah. So let's have a good clap for Brandon.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, man. We enjoyed this episode with you. If you liked it, our audience, do gives us a
Please
do give us a
give us a
thumbs up. Follow us on Instagram. If you want to talk to us, you can reach to us directly on our social media channels, or you can email us. We will be putting our emails down in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching in, and we will be seeing you around soon.